In China, a chubby leopard sparks netizens' concerns about the health of the overweight animals at the Panjihua Park Zoo.
Zoo officials say the leopard has gained weight due to limited space and minimal physical activity. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. The Philippines secures multi-billion pesos worth of investments from German renewable energy firms.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. asserts that the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines' judicial system.
Taiwan and China work hand in hand in a rare boat rescue mission.
The U.S. Congress ratifies a bill forcing TikTok to divest from its Chinese owner.
And Glastonbury Festival releases its 2024 lineup with women dominating the headline.
Las Vegas, Nevada,
España,
Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.,
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea,
in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila,
Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has arrived in the Czech Republic for the second half of his visit to Central Europe. This is after his successful visit to Germany. While in Prague, the chief executive is due to meet Czech Republic President Petr Pavel as well as 3 other constitutional heads. A joint communique on the establishment of labor consultation mechanism is also expected to be signed during the visit. This is aimed for a safe and orderly migration of Filipino migrant workers and protecting their rights and welfare. Meanwhile, Philippine Ambassador to Czech Republic Eduardo Martin Meañez noted that the president's visit to Prague is important, especially for the higher level of political, economic, and people-to-people engagement between the Philippines and other Central European nations.
So the visit of the president is also significant for this point because the Czech Republic is sort of like a symbol or representative of the demand for Filipino workers in Central and Eastern Europe. So it is a very opportune time for the president to come and visit this country and also to make sure that the conditions for our workers are good.
President Marcos' state visit to the Czech Republic is in commemoration of the golden year of bilateral ties between the Philippines and the Czech Republic.
German renewable energy developer WPD GmbH has expressed a keen interest in investing around 392.4 billion pesos in the Philippines' renewable energy sector. This commitment was conveyed during a meeting between President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and WPD GmbH officials, led by Bjorn Nollmeyer, the company's chief finance officer. According to Presidential Communications Office Secretary Cheloy Garafil, the company officials also provided updates to Marcos on various renewable energy projects in the country. These projects include new solar, onshore, and offshore wind projects nationwide, totaling around 137 billion pesos, with a combined rated capacity of 1,662 megawatts. During the meeting, President Marcos said that investments in the energy sector are crucial due to the administration's focus on industrialization, where a reliable energy supply is integral to its future plans.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said to German Chancellor Olaf Scholz that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, has no jurisdiction over the Philippines. In a bilateral meeting, Scholz asked Marcos about the investigation of the ICC regarding the campaign of former President Rodrigo Duterte against illegal drugs. President Marcos said it is the opinion of the Philippines that the ICC was created when a country has no judiciary, no functioning judiciary, no police force to enforce peace and order. The president further explained to Scholz that it is a mistake for the ICC to intervene in the judicial process in the Philippines, since Manila has a functioning judiciary, a functioning military, and a police force that upholds the law or the rule of law. President Marcos said Scholz just wanted to be informed, insisting that it is really a question of jurisdiction. He stated that it is very difficult for the Philippines to accept that an outside court will dictate to Filipino policemen who they will investigate and who they will arrest, because the Philippines do not need that advice. President Marcos said there are too many lawyers in the Philippines for the ICC to still intervene. The Philippines formally cut ties with the ICC on March 17, 2019, or a year after the country formally notified the United Nations of its withdrawal from the Rome Statute.
The website of the House of Representatives experienced over 480 million cyber attacks on Wednesday, March 13. Secretary General Reginald Velasco said this is the first time the House website encountered this unprecedented level of cyber attack. The severe distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack, which aimed to make the House platform unavailable to users, started at 8:50 in the morning. The House recorded over 53 million attacks, and by 4:36 p.m., the number of cyber attacks had risen to over 480 million.
The ICTS team of the House of Representatives reported an unusual surge in internet traffic on the congressional website that indicates that what they call a distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack, which aims to overwhelm target websites and render them inaccessible.
Based on the account of the House's Information and Communications Technology Director, the majority of the cyber attacks came from Indonesia, the United States, Colombia, India, and Russia. But these locations may be questionable due to the potential use of virtual private networks by the attackers, which can conceal their true origins.
If they are local or foreign hackers, or a collaboration of both, we must know the reason for these attacks. Is it for money or for political reasons, as they may have been contracted to destabilize our institution for whatever purpose.
Velasco assured the public that the House had successfully addressed the cyber attack, adding that no information related to the normal operations of the House of Representatives was compromised. He said that all institutional information remained secure and no personal or institutional data was accessed or stolen.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, has announced the allocation of 1.89 billion pesos for the scaled-up implementation of the Walang Gutom 2027 Food Stamp Program, or FSP. DSWD Assistant Secretary Balder Bringas stated that this funding will support an additional 300,000 household beneficiaries by July. The FSP is currently undergoing pilot testing in 5 areas across the country, including Manila, Isabela, and Siargao Island, among others. Launched in July 2023, the program is fully digitized and developed in collaboration with the World Food Program and the Asian Development Bank.
2 reporters covering a demolition in Pampanga were threatened to be shot by armed men. According to the National Union of Journalists in the Philippines, the threats were made by members of the demolition team of Clark Hills Properties Corporation in Barangay Anunas. The armed men verbally barred the 2 reporters and threatened them with gunfire after they were seen taking videos of the dispute between the locals and the armed demolition team that left 7 individuals with sustained injuries. The armed men also took the 2 journalists' belongings. Both journalists reportedly took refuge in nearby homes after the incident. In a statement posted on social media, Angeles City Mayor Carmelo Lazatin Jr. condemned the intimidation directed at the journalists, stating that he will not condone any attacks against members of the media. Several demolitions that have occurred in the disputed area have sparked other violent encounters before the incident.
The Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group arrests a 48-year-old Cebu resident claiming to have connections with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos to extort money from a businessman in Metro Manila during an entrapment operation. PNP-CIDG Director Major General Romeo M. Karamat Jr. says that Francisco Auna, along with his companions Joselito Agduca and Herman Revesa, claims to be part of the Philippine Marines. Colonel George Bucayo Jr. and the other members of the CIDG National Capital Region Field Unit conducted the entrapment operation following the complaint of one Gerald Hidalgo. Police authorities say that the victim lodged the complaint against Isko, who promised to protect his emissions testing and medical business in the Land Transportation Office, or LTO, in exchange for 5 million pesos. CIDG Director Major General Romeo Karamat Jr. says, and I quote, alias Isko claimed to have a direct connection with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, that if the victim refused to give him the money, he would cancel or hinder all his business transactions. Authorities confiscated budil money, a handgun with 3 magazines, 32 live ammunition, a license to own and possess firearms, a permit to carry firearms, all under the name of Joselito. All the suspects are charged with violation of Article 293 of the Revised Penal Code for robbery extortion before the Pasay City Prosecutor's Office.
Coming up, Taiwan and China unite for a joint rescue mission. Israel seeks to relocate 1.4 million displaced Palestinians. And why does the U.S. want to ban TikTok? Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart.
Break the open!
Ha? Break?
Break?
Break? Bakit may boyfriend ka ba?
May boyfriend ka pa?
Paano ka nagka-boyfriend?
Oo, saan nakasulat yung schedule niyo sa bato?
Lingid sa kaalaman nyo, nakikipagkita ako kay Milo dito sa bahay.
Mukha kicks. Pakasal na tayo. May asawa yan, ano?
Ay,
Masama yan, ha?
oy, mapanghusga kayo. Biyudo na yung tao.
Di ba?
Tito mo ka, dapat lang pag ako na naglakad ng ganito, gumaganon, maaabot kita ng kamay ko. Di ba? Ayaw mo to dumapo dyan sa mukha. Di ba?
Ate ka naman, kaibigan.
Together, Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Authorities from Taiwan and China dispatched teams to join a rescue mission for a boat that capsized near Kinmen Islands. Reports stated a Taiwan official who requested anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter said Taipei sent Coast Guard boats to join the rescue after Beijing asked them for help. Rescue teams saved at least 5 persons. Taiwan's Coast Guard did not immediately respond to any media request for comment.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un recently oversaw a military demonstration featuring a new battle tank, showcasing the country's military capabilities amid the conclusion of joint military drills between South Korea and the United States. Kim, accompanied by senior officials, including Defense Minister Kang Sun-nam, reportedly expressed great satisfaction with the performance of the new main battle tank, which demonstrated its striking power effectively during its inaugural display. The training exercise aimed to assess the combat readiness of tank crews and familiarize them with various tactical missions. The 105th Tank Division emerged victorious in the simulated battle, a unit known for its having occupied the South Korean capital, Seoul, during the Korean War.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is under heavy pressure to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Sources say Scholz is being pushed by his own defense and foreign ministers, giving speeches for Berlin sending Taurus missiles to Kyiv. The Taurus cruise missile has a range of up to 500 kilometers. It can be mounted on a Ukrainian fighter jet. Taurus missiles have been the subject of extensive debate in EU nations since Ukraine submitted a request to acquire the weapons in May of 2023. The United Kingdom has repeatedly made clear to Germany that Ukraine needs long-range missiles. But Chancellor Scholz opposes sending the Taurus missiles to Kyiv as he fears the move will draw Germany into the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He says the use of these German-made missiles could theoretically target specific locations in Moscow if deployed incorrectly. He insists on the importance of preventing escalation and averting a direct conflict between Russia and NATO, noting to EU nations that Berlin has provided substantial military assistance to Ukraine against Russia. Cyprus's foreign minister says a second Gaza-bound aid ship would embark from the Cypriot port of Larnaca once a boat already sailing along the new maritime corridor completes its mission. Bernadette Ragini has the story.
With only a fraction of the basic supplies needed to sustain Gaza's 2.4 million people let in by land, foreign governments turned to airdrops and are now trying to open the maritime corridor from Cyprus. The first boat, Open Arms, set sail on Tuesday in a trial for the new aid route, which the United Nations and other humanitarian officials said was unlikely to effectively substitute overland access. Cypriot Foreign Minister Konstantinos Kombos says the second boat, a bigger capacity vessel, will leave Larnaca after the offload of the first one. He says should no problem arise, they have lined up the next departure. The Spanish charity operating it, also called Open Arms, says loaded with 200 tons of humanitarian aid, the ship Open Arms should take several days to cross the roughly 370-kilometer sea journey between Cyprus and Gaza. The planned unloading point on Gaza's shores has not been announced due to security concerns. Once near Gaza, the aid carried by the Open Arms will be delivered onto a pier built for the operation by U.S. charity World Central Kitchen. The charity will also distribute the aid. Combo says it is a maiden trip and that the capacity to receive and distribute food to the population is being carefully studied. Combo says a major concern for the delivery is crowd management. He says the second ship has been in Larnaca since Saturday and is being inspected. Bernadette Ragini for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Israel plans to relocate 1.4 million displaced Palestinians out of Rafah before launching its offensive in the southern Gaza city. Israel Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari said they will move the displaced Palestinians to humanitarian islands. Hagari said Israel would provide food, water, and other basic necessities to the refugees. The United States, its allies, and many aid organizations warned of a humanitarian catastrophe if Israel invades Rafah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has insisted that the Rafah campaign will go forward, saying Israel's survival cannot be ensured without total victory against Hamas. Hagari did not specify when evacuations will begin or how much time will be given, but he said the timing will be coordinated with Egypt.
The U.S. State Secretary says when the temporary pier in the Mediterranean becomes operational, it will bring in up to 2 million meals a day into the Gaza Strip. Messi Membreri reports.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he spoke with his counterparts from Britain, Cyprus, the EU, Qatar, and the UAE on aid initiative announced last week. The move is for the U.S. military to build a temporary pier in the Mediterranean to bring in aid into the Gaza Strip. Blinken says the port, which will take time to build, is not a replacement but an added avenue to bring in humanitarian supplies into the beleaguered territory.
This is something that's going to take time to actually put in place, although we're working on it as expeditiously as possible. And I want to emphasize, it is a complement to, not a substitute for, other ways of getting humanitarian assistance into Gaza. And in particular, overland routes remain the most critical way to get assistance in and then to people who need it. But this will help close the gap.
Blinken says when established, aside from delivering up to 2 million meals every single day, the corridor will also enable the distribution of medicine, water, and other critical humanitarian supplies. He mentions Israel's responsibility to allow humanitarians to deliver what they need to and to make sure their facilities are not blocked.
You have a terrorist group that is firing from hospitals, from schools, from apartment buildings, but the Israeli military, the Israeli government have a responsibility and an obligation to do everything possible to ensure that the humanitarians can do their jobs. And among other things, that means making sure that if there's a humanitarian facility that's clearly identified, it's not struck.
The state secretary says the most effective way, however, to put humanitarian aid into the hands of those who need it is with a ceasefire and an environment much more conducive to getting the aid through. Messi Membre from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The chief of Amnesty International says efforts to deliver aid to war-torn Gaza via seaport or airdrops are a sign of international powerlessness to tend to the conflict. Philip Toledo has the details.
The United Nations warns of looming famine as the flow of aid trucks into Gaza from Egypt has slowed. With only a fraction of the basic supplies needed to sustain Gaza's 2.4 million people coming in by land, foreign governments turn to airdrops and a maritime corridor from Cyprus. Amnesty International Secretary General Agnes Callamard says nobody was holding Israel to account over the delays to deliveries by land. Callamard says the international community must be prepared to hold Israel to account. She adds that the airdrops, the construction of a port, are a sign of powerlessness and weakness on the part of the international community. With U.S. President Joe Biden announcing Washington's plan to establish a temporary port for aid deliveries to Gaza, Callamard says it was a huge concern that the international community seemed to have accepted that the deadly conflict would drag on for another 2 months. The Pentagon says the port would take up to 60 days and involve 1,000 U.S. personnel. Callamard asks, why make an investment that will take 2 months? She says that is extremely worrisome, with more than 30,000 people already dead. Philip Toledo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The U.S. House of Congress has passed a bill that could have TikTok banned in America. ByteDance, the social media giant's Chinese parent company, will be given 6 months to turn this around by selling its controlling stake to a non-Chinese entity, or the application would be blocked in the U.S. President Joe Biden promised to sign the bill as soon as it lands on his desk, which could spark a diplomatic issue with China. TikTok has tried to reassure regulators that the U.S. is walled off from ByteDance employees in China, and its chief executive, Shou Zi, doubled down, saying that the company is committed to keeping its data secure and the platform, quote, free from outside manipulation, unquote. However, an investigation by the Wall Street Journal in January found that data are being unofficially shared between TikTok in the U.S. and ByteDance in China, deeming the system potentially problematic. A high-profile case harnessed concerns after an internal email exposed that ByteDance employees in China accessed journalist data to track their sources down in December 2024. House of Congress Democrat Hakeem Jeffries welcomed the bill, saying it would decrease the likelihood that TikTok data is exploited and privacy is undermined by a hostile foreign adversary.
President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, through his attorney, has rejected a request from House Republicans to testify publicly or at a hearing next week. In a letter to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, attorney Abby Lowell said Hunter would not appear for the hearing on March 20. Lowell called the scheduled hearing a carnival sideshow and blatant plan for a media event. Attorney Lowell also argued that Hunter had answered every question Republicans had for him in the deposition, insisting that the public hearing is not a serious oversight proceeding.
United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres says women and girls are being hit hard during these turbulent times and suffering the most from wars waged by men. Rosel Feria reports.
Addressing the Commission on the Status of Women, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the increasing conflict and crisis around the world have a devastating impact on women and girls. He mentions the appalling and outrageous conflict continuing in Gaza. The horrific accounts of sexual violence against and sexualized torture of women and girls during the terror attacks by Hamas and other armed groups in Israel on October 7. And the hostilities in Sudan, where scores of women have reportedly been subjected to rape and other forms of sexual violence in the ongoing conflict. These, Guterres says, are heartbreaking and utterly unacceptable. He says despite women's full participation in making peace building much more effective, the number of women in decision-making roles is actually falling.
The facts are clear. Women lead to peace. Budgets and policies must follow, with ambitious targets for women's participation and urgent investments in women's peace building. Excellencies, dear friends, many women and girls are also facing a war on their fundamental rights at home and in their communities. Hard-fought progress is being reversed. Women's rights are fundamentally a question of power, and I see two deeply worrying trends.
One of these worrying trends Guterres mentions is the artificial intelligence technology dominated by men as leaders and at the technical level. He warns that when systems are designed by men, they result in biased algorithms.
Women's needs, women's bodies, and women's fundamental rights are ignored. Male-dominated algorithms could literally program inequalities into activities from urban planning to credit ratings to medical imaging for years to come. This endangers men and boys as well as women and girls.
The UN chief calls on governments, civil society, and the Silicon Valleys of the world to bridge the digital gender divide and ensure women have decision-making roles in digital technology at all levels. In Washington, D.C., Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Adidas posted its first annual loss in more than 30 years. Its board would also propose a dividend of €0.70 per share on its 2023 performance, despite posting a net loss of €58 million, its first since 1992. Some business analysts blame Adidas's profits dwindling from a sell-off in its discontinued sneaker line with Kanye West. Still, CEO Bjorn Gulden says 2023 ended better than what he had expected at the start of this year. Shares in Adidas have staged a recovery, outperforming Nike and Puma since Gulden took over. The German sportswear giant expects its business to improve in 2024 with double-digit growth in the second half.
To prioritize the privacy of its guests, Airbnb says it is banning security cameras inside rental properties. Airbnb previously allowed indoor security cameras in common areas such as hallways and living rooms if they were clearly visible. The home rental platform also disclosed these provisions in listings before guests could book such homes. But Airbnb users voiced concerns about the use of indoor surveillance cameras, arguing lack of privacy. The updated policy now bans the use of outdoor cameras that point inside properties. It will go into effect on April 30. However, Airbnb says doorbell cameras and noise decibel monitors are still permitted to detect unauthorized parties.
Up next, 2 men charged with bombing and planned Python attack. A tropical storm raises Mozambique. And the European Parliament seeks to adopt new AI regulations. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Andito rin po kami lahat, kasama po namin Anonas Police.
Expose. Mental health facility sa lungsod ng Quezon. Inirereklamo mga kabataang nanatili doon. Napapabayaan nga ba?
Ang nainom niyang gamot, yung gamot ng anak niya. Ang nangyari, nawala siya sa sarili.
Viral ngayon, PWD na namamalimos. Nagbigay pa ng pagkain sa kanyang karawan. Ating kilalanin. Mga senior citizen, voluntaryong naglilinis sa kanilang barangay sa Makati City. Ating kilalanin. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde. Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
A well-known Mexican journalist abducted earlier this week is found alive and well. Anna Cui has the details.
After being released by his abductors, 56-year-old radio and television host Jaime Barrera says the kidnappers wanted to intimidate him because of his work. The state prosecutor's office in the western state of Jalisco says it is continuing its investigation to identify those responsible after Barrera was found in good health. Barrera was snatched on Monday afternoon. He says his abduction was a warning about what he writes and says. Barrera said that he was driven to an unknown location by his kidnappers, who made thinly veiled threats against his family. He was later transferred to another place and finally released by his kidnappers early Wednesday morning in a town northwest of Guadalajara. Media rights group Reporters Without Borders says that since the year 2000, more than 150 journalists have been murdered in Mexico. The majority of the crimes go unpunished. Anna Cui from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
2 Georgia men are charged with bombing a woman's home the day after she moves in and plotting to release a python to eat the victim's daughter. Stephen Glosser and Caleb Kinsey allegedly built an explosive device using tannerite purchased online and used it to blow up the victim's home, with whom one of them had a previous relationship. U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Georgia says that the 2 men are also accused of planning to shoot arrows into the victim's front door and mail dog feces or dead rats to her home. They also allegedly considered scalping the victim as part of a plan to kill, intimidate, harass, and injure the woman. They also plot to acquire and release a large python into the victim's home to eat the victim's daughter. Prosecutors say that the men had the victim under surveillance from December 2022 to January 2023 with the intent to kill, injure, harass, or intimidate. Officials say that the conspiracy charge carries a statutory penalty upon conviction of up to 20 years in prison. If convicted, the suspects could face an additional 10 years for the charge of using an explosive to commit a felony.
Peruvian police have seized illegal arms from an alleged trafficking network supplying Ecuador. Authorities said the police have arrested 18 people during the raid. They shared that the operation is part of an investigation into illegal arms trafficking and its role in the assassination of an Ecuadorian presidential candidate last year. Meanwhile, around 700 officers have raided houses and offices in 4 districts of Lima and on Peru's border with Ecuador.
Y estas armas meterlas al mercado negro, tanto en el carácter nacional, ya sea organizaciones criminales, narcotráfico, minería ilegal, tal ilegal, trata de personas, bandas organizadas, como también aquellas organizaciones de países vecinos, como puede ser el caso del Ecuador. Yo siempre admití.
Paul Alexander, the man who lived inside an iron lung for over 70 years after contracting polio, died at the age of 78. His family and friends said Paul was hospitalized for COVID last month, but the exact cause of Paul's death is unclear as he tested negative of COVID this week. Paul Alexander developed polio in the summer of 1952 at the age of 6. The disease left Paul paralyzed from the neck down and unable to breathe on his own. Doctors placed him in an iron lung, a large metal cylinder that varies air pressure to stimulate breathing. Paul defied expectations and inspired many people by becoming a lawyer and an author.
Tropical storm Filippo has hit Mozambique, leaving thousands of people in need of urgent humanitarian aid. The storm, which made landfall in Inhambane province, has battered the area with intermittent rain and gusty winds, severing communication lines and disrupting electric supply. Roofs have been ripped out from schools and residential areas. 4 people have reportedly died and 1 has been injured because of the storm. According to Oxfam, a non-government organization in Kenya, the people affected by the storm have nothing but wild roots left to eat as they have lost their crops to repeated extreme weather. Prior to the disaster, climate change has been a problem in the country. In a statement, South Africa Oxfam Program Director Mashinda Marongwe said, and I quote, "Consecutive disasters have made it almost impossible for affected communities to recover and rebuild their lives. Whatever little crops people have tried planting in this growing season have been damaged either due to El Nino-induced 6 weeks of dry spells or by flash floods." Tropical storm Filippo struck 1 year after Cyclone Freddy, one of the deadliest storms to hit the African continent in the last 2 decades.
Dozens of people protested on the street corner carrying placards that read, "We want water and time for excuses is done." Elise Daniel has more.
A heat wave created an increase in demand and has left water levels in South African reservoirs dangerously low. The taps have been dry for more than 10 days now, with no end in sight. Resident Cecilia Walsh is fed up with the situation.
I haven't had a bath or a shower or even a wash for the past 11 days. And this is day 2 that I found a tanker. And at least now I can give my dog some water. It might be enough water to do some dishes. Cannot do any washing. Might get a bucket bath a bit later.
Along with a water shortage, South Africa is dealing with a shortage of electricity. Outdated infrastructure leads to regular blackouts where people are without power for several hours. Elise Daniel for Matana Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A chubby leopard at the Panjua Park Zoo in Sichuan Province, China, has sparked concerns about the health of the overweight animals. Visitors captured a video of the leopard relaxing inside the animal's enclosure. Zoo officials said the 16-year-old leopard has gained weight due to limited space and minimal physical activity. Meanwhile, local residents of Panjua visiting the zoo disclosed that not only the leopard but also other animals appear to be overweight. This includes bears, ostriches, and alpacas.
The European Parliament has ratified the landmark rules on artificial intelligence. Dubbed the AI Act, the legislative aims to moderate high-risk uses of AI technology by the private and public sectors. This is by implementing stricter transparency laws for the models like ChatGPT and banning tools that are considered to be dangerous. Senior European Union officials welcome the new law, describing that it will protect citizens from the risks of developing technologies. The landmark rules on AI have passed with support from 523 EU lawmakers, with 46 voting against. The European Union's 27 states are set to endorse the AI Act by April.
Coming right up, Messi propels Inter Miami to the CONCACAF quarterfinals. Glastonbury 2024 boasts of an all-new all-female lineup. And Ryan Gosling pays homage to action stars in The Fall Guy. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment. Mata ng Agila International will be back.
Isang babae sa Malabon ang nagdemanda ng kanyang kapitbahay sapagkat ibinenta nito ang kanyang bakod.
Na-flat po kasi. Okay lang po. Hindi kasi ako marunong gumamit nito.
Kwenta po yung binigay nyo. Ito po, bali, sukliin nyo po, 2 turon, tsaka 2
It's B.O. It's B.O. Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
Despite his absence from the royal event, King Charles did appear via a pre-recorded video message to pay tribute to the work of the Commonwealth. From England, Renewable Celestino tells us more.
Britain's King Charles III praised the work of the Commonwealth on its 75th anniversary. King Charles heads the Commonwealth, a voluntary club of 56 countries that evolved out from the British Empire. But the King, who is currently recovering from cancer treatment, missed the royal annual celebration at London's Westminster Abbey.
We're all behind you, the country is behind you.
Instead, he paid tribute to the royal club via a pre-recorded video message, vowing that he would continue to serve to the best of his ability. King Charles also said he had been deeply touched by people's wishes for his health.
In recent weeks, I have been most deeply touched by your wonderfully kind and thoughtful good wishes for my health, and in return, can only continue to serve you to the best of my ability throughout the Commonwealth.
Royal experts believe the Commonwealth Day events are the most significant annual royal occasion that King Charles has missed since he stepped away from public appearances after he was diagnosed with cancer. Due to his health condition, the celebration was attended by his wife, Queen Camilla, who took over the royal duties after the king's cancer diagnosis. Royal dignitaries who attended the event include Prince William, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh, and Baroness Patricia. Foreign Secretary David Cameron, Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Gowden, Shadow Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, and some British celebrities joined the royal event. King Charles urged the Commonwealth nations, which represent a third of humanity, to work together and support each other to pursue solutions for inequalities and injustices.
Wherever we live, we are united by the many challenges we face, whether it be climate change, the loss of nature, or the social and economic changes that new technologies are bringing. Our diversity means that these challenges affect us all differently, and that we experience their impacts in different ways. Their seriousness, however, is common to each one of us.
The annual event is usually the highlight of the royal calendar, but some reports say the royal event was overshadowed by the controversy surrounding an edited photo that was shared by Princess Kate. Princess Kate apologized for the edited photo after several major news agencies rejected the image. Like the king, Kate did not attend the service. Kensington Palace previously said Princess Kate is at home recovering from abdominal surgery. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, this is Arabel Celestino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Lionel Messi's magic propels Inter Miami off to the CONCACAF Champions Cup quarterfinals. Vin Pasqua has the score.
In case anyone forgot, Lionel Messi reminded all of us why he is the GOAT in Nashville. Messi scored a first-half goal and set up former Barcelona strike partner Luis Suarez for another goal with Robert Taylor, and finally adding the nail in the coffin of a Suarez cross in the second half. Messi's assist was part of a beautifully worked team goal. No fewer than 5 Miami players were involved in the build-up, with Suarez's brilliant dummy run allowing the ball to roll behind him to Messi, who simply one-touched the final pass behind Nashville's back line for Suarez to poke the goal home. Messi and Suarez were the heroes in the first leg, but it was the former's goal on that simultaneously put the series out of reach and represented a statement of intent from the World Cup winner. At 36, Messi wants all the silverware he can still carry. He already led Miami to the inaugural Leagues Cup over the same Nashville side last summer, just a month after his stateside debut. With a 2025 FIFA Club World Cup berth at stake, Messi wants this title too. Inter Miami will face either Mexican powerhouse Monterrey or MLS rival FC Cincinnati in the last 8 of the Continental Championship. Reporting for Sports, Vin Pasqua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Miami leads by
Following last year's criticism of its all-male headline acts, Glastonbury has decided to change it up this year, featuring women on its center stage. Catherine Ortula has the scoop.
Fresh from the announcement of her new album, Dua Lipa is set to headline Glastonbury Festival's opener, followed by Coldplay and SZA, with Shania Twain playing the coveted Legend slot. The lineup poster also reveals which acts will be playing on what stage, with LCD Sound System, Little Sims, Cyndi Lauper, and Janelle Monáe all set to play the Pyramid for afternoon and evening slots. Burna Boy, PJ Harvey, Michael Kiwanuka, and Paloma Faith will also be playing on the main stage. The big reveal follows last year's controversy of entirely male headline acts, with the Arctic Monkeys, Guns N' Roses, and Elton John taking to the Pyramid stage. A report published in the wake of 2023's announcement found that the number of male acts nearly doubled that of female acts. Festival organizer Emily Evis hopes will go some way to readdressing that balance. Many will notice the absence of several names who were hotly rumored to be playing the festival, including Madonna, Stevie Wonder, and Bruce Springsteen. This year will mark the first time Dua Lipa and SZA have headlined the festival. Catherine Artula for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron bags the Oscar for Best Animated Feature in the 96th Academy Awards held in Los Angeles, California. The 83-year-old's rumored last film, The Boy and the Heron, deals with the story of a young boy in search for his mother during the Second World War in a mysterious fantasy world. Miyazaki remains at the top of the most high-profile Japanese animators, winning scores of awards, including the Best Animated Feature Oscar in 2003 for Spirited Away. Miyazaki also received 2 other Oscar nominations for Howl's Moving Castle in And the Wind Rises in 2006 and 2014, respectively. But despite becoming a prominent figure not just in Japan but worldwide, Miyazaki describes his work as an agonizing struggle and has even retired unsuccessfully several times. However, Studio Ghibli's Vice President Junichi Nishioka denied in September that the film is Miyazaki's final work and that he is planning to retire, saying, quote, "Other people say this might be his last film, but he doesn't feel that way at all. He is currently working on ideas for a new film. He comes into his office every day and does that," unquote. Nishioka added that this time Miyazaki is not going to announce his retirement at all and that he is continuing working just as he has always done.
Wes Anderson clinches his first ever Academy Award after his Netflix film The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar wins Best Live Action Film in the 2024 Oscars. Anderson's film competed against films like The After, Invincible, A Night of Fortune, and Red, White, and Blue in the same category. In 2001, Anderson received his first Academy Award nomination with The Royal Tenenbaums for Best Original Screenplay. Since then, the 54-year-old also got nominations for Best Animated Picture with Fantastic Mr. Fox, Best Original Screenplay for Moonrise Kingdom, and Best Animated Picture with Isle of Dogs. Though The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar award is a first for Anderson specifically. A film he was a part of called The Grand Budapest won Academy Awards in 2014 for Best Original Score, Best Production Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and Best Costume Design. Despite Anderson being in Germany shooting another masterpiece at the time he won the awards, he released a statement through Netflix saying, "If I could have been there, I, along with Stephen Rails, would have said thank you to the family of Roald Dahl, the team at Netflix, our cast and crew, and also if I had not met Owen Wilson in a corridor at the University of Texas between classes when I was 18 years old, I would certainly not be receiving this award tonight."
After stealing the show at the Oscars for his performance of I'm Just Can't, representing his role in the movie Barbie, versatile actor Ryan Gosling has electrified audiences at the South by Southwest Film Festival with his rom-com Fall Guy. TJ Mendoza has the scoop.
Hello. Hi, nice to meet you. But really nice to meet you, actually more than you know, because we talked about you every day on set. Every scene, every shot, every line, we were like, what is the audience going to want? What don't they want? What have they seen? What haven't they seen? What would they like to see again? So much about you, so it's so nice to finally meet you.
At the Austin premiere of his rom-com Fall Guy Tuesday at the South by Southwest TV and Film Festival, Ryan Gosling paid tribute to the stunt performers.
Why me?
According to Gosling, the movie is an opportunity to finally acknowledge the stunt performers and the incredible contribution that they already make to movies.
In this piece that you're about to see, there's a gentleman who buckles me into a car. That's Logan Holiday. He's what am I trying to say? Hello. He's buckling me into a car for a stunt he's about to do. And then he pulls me out of the car and pats me on the back for the stunt that he just did. And, you know, in any other movie you wouldn't know that, but in this movie you do. You know, that sort of the lack of recognition, the contribution that they make to cinema, to some of the best moments in this film, the best moments in films in general that we love so much, you know, that ends here.
In the film, which was directed by David Leitch, stuntman turned filmmaker behind John Wick, Gosling plays called Sivers. A stuntman who finds himself not only working for a big studio movie that happens to be directed by his ex-girlfriend, played by Emily Blunt, but he also gets entangled in the web of a murder case. Fall Guy is an adaptation of the 1980s TV series of the same name created by Glenn A. Larson, and Leitch said at the premiere that they really wanted to celebrate Cruise and the magic behind the scenes. Gosling and Blunt's arrival at the fest came a couple of days after the 2024 Academy Awards, where they both received a nomination, and where Gosling famously performed his song, I'm Just Ken, from Barbie. Ryan Gosling is ridiculously charismatic as the new cult Sivers, giving a magnetic performance, but also leaning on some acting chops and intensity that should remind fans of his iconic role in Drive. The Fall Guy is very much about the people behind the scenes of the movie industry, but it's almost more of an ode to the era of the movie star, when a performer could hold a viewer over despite the plot. The Fall Guy hits US theaters on May 3. TJ Mendoza for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The biggest action star.
And to send you off this Thursday evening, here's a quote from Corey Taylor, American musician and songwriter. Do what you do and mean it every second of the day. If you don't, you're living someone else's life.
Doing everything with passion also provides you with that purpose in life.
Exactly, and it's such a waste to be living someone else's life.
Very true.
If you happen to be on the road at this moment, please don't fail to tune in to Eagle FM 95.5.
You can also catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.